Jerry Brown here with Jerry Brown Travels, and today what I'm going to do is we're going to look at or listen to some comments that people left me this week. It struck a note with them about medical insurance when I talked about health care down here, my procedures of going through some of the doctors and also hospitals here. So it has prompted people to make a comment, and I appreciate that. So I'm going to go through a little question and answer period here to let you know what people are asking. So let's look at the first one here.
Do you know of anyone that has had experience with the medical evacuation insurance to get you back home in the case of a serious medical issue?
Yes, traveler's insurance is what you can get. This is something that Lori and I get when we travel internationally. And so the way it's set up, typically, this is what we do. We get $150,000 medical care. That'll take care of any emergency and medical care that we would need as we're traveling. Also, we get $150,000 evacuation insurance. This way, if one of us need to be evacuated out of the country and get close to our doctors, that would be provided. We did have to use that one time. Lori broke her pelvis. We were in South America in the Amazon, and we had to air vac her out back to the United States where we had our doctors and our medical insurance there. And so it worked out real good. It would have been quite a mess had we didn't have that. And if you don't have that, like in Mexico here, then you have to go to the private doctors. You'll have to pay up front to get in to see the doctors. You'll have to pay for the bill before you can leave the doctors. And so it's a different situation. So we personally always get traveler insurance, and that's our recommendation to you. We use a company called Seven Corners, and we've used it for years. I'm not saying it's the best. We've just been using it, so we just stay with it. Okay, let's go to the next question.
Jerry, I have a personal question to ask. I am asking because my wife and I are thinking about retiring in Mexico, and this is a concern. If something happens to you, will Lori stay in Mexico or will she move back to her home country? I understand that everyone has to make their own personal plan, but I was wondering if you had a plan in place. I was wondering about expat deaths in Mexico, insurance policies to send the body back, or cremating in Mexico. I hope you don't consider this to be too personal, but it is one of my concerns. Thank you, Jorge.
Well, Jorge, you can ask anything you want, and it's not too personal. I will answer you, and I always enjoy answering questions. Okay, so you asked if something happens to me, and let's be factual with this. I'm 7 years older than Lori, so the odds are that the man goes before the woman, especially at 7 years older. So just recently, within the last year, I asked that same question to Lori. And so I says to Lori, I says, if something happens to me and I die, would you want to stay in Mexico or would you want to leave? And she said, no, I'd like to stay in Mexico. She said, I have a lot of friends here and I would be able to get a lot of emotional support. So we elect to do that. The other thing is that you ask about the evacuation of the body or how you get the body out if you die. Well, what we've done, we have gone to the mortuary. We've already made our plans that we plan on dying here. And so we plan on living the rest of our life here. And so at that point, then the mortuary has all of our information. They will come and pick up the body and they will then take it back. The thing about in Mexico, this is important, is that if somebody dies in the house, you do not call the police, because if you call the police, they have to do a report on it. They have to look at it like it's a homicide. So don't call the police. You either call your doctor or call the mortuary, and they then will write a death certificate, and you don't have to go through the hassle of going through the police. So we've made those arrangements already, and our plan is to have our bodies cremated here in Mexico. So I hope that has answered your question. let's go to another question.
Sounds a bit scary having no health insurance. What if you had a major emergency and couldn't travel back to the US? Doesn't Mexico have a public or national health care system, th?
Yeah, it is scary if you come down or traveling anywhere, say in Mexico or anywhere, and you get caught with a medical emergency. Maybe you have appendicitis. Maybe you have ammonia and stuff like this. We carry travel insurance, like I just said in another comment, and we've had to use it a couple times. Another time that we needed to use it, it was the medical part of it. Lori had gotten pneumonia. This was a few years back when we were traveling through Southeast Asia, and she come down with a severe case of pneumonia. So she was in the hospital, and so we were able to use that portion of our medical insurance. We get $150,000 medical insurance. Now, the hospital, you're not going to just hand them the paperwork or a little card showing your medical insurance. They'll see that, but they want you to pay cash for it, which we had to do. Then I had to go back to the insurance company, and within 90 days, I needed to submit it so I could get a reimbursement. And a lot of times, it's difficult. You're going to get 100% reimbursement. In that particular case, I got 75% reimbursement. So that's the way it worked for us. Now, Mexico does have a good Mexican system here where they offer medical hospitals, doctors, everything for the local Mexican family, and so they're covered by that. And so the thing also people don't realize, but Mexico even has a pension plan. They can collect a pension here. They have the government that has set that up for them. So they're pretty much covered, taking care of their own people. And the other part of it is, for foreigners, we have to look out and take care of ourselves overall. So travel insurance, make sure you have enough money. If you have to go to a hospital and you're going to have to pay up front how much that hospital will be, make sure you have enough money in cash or a credit card. Does that answer?
Danke. If you have to go, come right back.
Next question.
Not having medical insurance in Mexico is not a good idea at all. You're playing roulette if you have an emergency. Plenty of stories of USA visitors in Mexico and having an emergency and getting a 20,000 plus charge on CC.
Okay, what she's referring to there, what happened down here, and it was within the Lake Chapala area, is I think it was a cardiologist. Guy goes in there and he asks, he's having some troubles. And so he takes him to Guadalajara, checks him into hospital. And again, he had to have money put down to get in. But when he finally had the final bill come, it was 20,000 US dollars. Way more than it ever should have been. And they found out this one doctor here was pulling a scam, and they found out about it. Now, I don't know if there was any recourse through the Mexican government, but the recourse was it got spread out. It's a small community, and people will not use that doctor. And so that was a bit on this story here. Okay, let's listen to another one.
To start, if you have an emergency, you go or call the Red Cross or the number of emergencies. Everything will be free and they will not ask for identification. If your medical case requires a specialized hospital and you do not have money, you will be interviewed by a hospital social worker, and if they have already given you medical care.
Okay, so what is they're referring to here? They're saying that actually, they're basically are saying Mexico has free services here. And what I'm talking about is private. They're talking about the Mexican service that you can get it free. But you have to know this, that to qualify that as a foreigner, you have to have a temporary visa or a permanent visa. to apply for the Mexican healthcare insurance for Mexicans and for foreigners. Now, as I mentioned in another comment there, that the care here is not what you expect or that you are used to. So you have to be willing to maybe somebody come into the hospital with you to help you and assist you. You may need to bring in certain medicines and certain things to the doctor that they're not going to provide in the hospital for you. So yes, they can get free services. The local Mexicans get the free services, and the foreigners can also take advantage of that. But remember, you have to qualify and do the paperwork, and they ask for a temporary visa or a permanent visa. You can't just come in the country and, hurt yourself and then go off to one of their clinics. They're not going to accept that. Thank you, everybody, for submitting your comments. I hope this has helped you to answer those comments. And also look forward to an upcoming video that we have, and it's going to be about some of the mistakes that we made before coming into Mexico and deciding to live here. And we want to share those experiences that we had, so maybe you won't get caught by the traps that we did. So look forward to that video on our mistakes that we made before we came into Mexico, or things that we would do different. Check that out.